here we are with episode 12 of That Marketing Show, and I said I had some special guests coming up. I wanted to get people involved with some of the folks that are players in the industry, and of course, Josh from Click. And, I think one of the things that you and I talked about earlier, or our email conversations before we actually got on this call, was the relevance to the audience that we both partake to. I mean, I got you from Scott Gallagher's, and kudos to Scott for putting his show together and really bringing some people up and into this space and getting their heads around this. But why did you get started in this industry? Being that we're both sort of in the agency world of trying to bring small and medium-sized businesses up to today's standard as of trying to give them some relevance to the market space.
Sure. It's kind of a mix. I mean, I was a big time computer internet guy going through high school and college and spent some time in corporate sales, but just found that my true passion is working with small, medium sized businesses and helping them grow, helping them put strategies in place to go from that, 500,000 to a million to 2 million range. And I just enjoy it. And so spent some time doing the B2B thing, in corporate sales. My heart wasn't in it, so I spent some time soul searching, and that's how I got back into this internet marketing for local business world.
Yeah, that's great. And it's great to see the growth. I mean, you and I have probably both watched some of these companies grow from when we first started with them to another year and another year, and you see more people enter their businesses. And I think part of the reason that we like it is because we're actually creating value, and the value is transferring, and that it's great to hear that you found the passion for that.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a background of where you really came from. I mean, how did you get into especially because you do a lot of the HVAC strategy, and how did that whole thing synthesize?
Well, I started actually right out of high school. I started doing web design and web development. Had my own web design company all the way through college. It was a tough business to be in because every month you've got to find a new client, and kind of burned myself out because we were doing websites for $800, $1,200, and it just wasn't enough to really have a successful business. So I went into corporate sales, spent some time, selling payroll services and selling document imaging. Like I said, got burned out with that. Didn't feel the passion for it. So I went back to my roots and said, what do I like? What do I enjoy? Decided I liked helping people market themselves, but needed to figure out that piece of the equation. So more than just doing websites, I needed to do internet marketing. I needed to put strategies in place that actually helped our clients grow, like you were talking about a second ago. And then, went back out on my own, started my own company with a focus on internet marketing strategy, search engine optimization, with reoccurring revenue, obviously being the key component, so that as you sell a client, you're growing a business as opposed to just doing one sale after another. And then, you mentioned I do have a specialty within plumbing and HVAC. That's where 95% of our business resides. And it was just a function of doing a really good job for a couple plumbing companies early on. One of the companies I work with is in Fort Lauderdale, Town Plumbing. He was a little guy, two-guy operation, implemented our strategy, got him ranked on page 1 in Fort Lauderdale. He quickly grew from 2 guys to 4 guys to 8 guys. And it was just such a great success that I got a passion for the plumbing and HVAC space. I saw what it could do for a business and took that success and parlayed it into a couple other companies, and then just decided, let's just be the experts in plumbing and HVAC and really be the best that there is in this market. And we've since grown it to what we are today.
So when was that burn the boats? We're on the island. You said when you started the whole function. When was it that you basically said, okay, we're being the Cortez here. We're going to burn the boats. We're on the island. We're taking over. Was there a moment when you kind of knew, okay, I'm not going back to corporate sales, or I'm not going back to, the way I had before? Because I think that aha moment is really where a lot of the entrepreneurial level comes in, where you're like, okay, this is it.
Right. For me, actually, I did spend a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but at one of the really big pay-per-click management companies. I don't want to say any names, but I just saw that we were able to get companies to pay in the $1,000 to $5,000 per month range, the smaller localized businesses. Saw the opportunity, but then also saw the lack of execution, where they weren't getting the type of return on investment that I wanted to see them get. And I saw the potential, I saw the revenue growth, And I knew that if I could provide that next level of service and give them a complete package, that I could really grow a sustainable business. And that was kind of the burn the boats mentality. We said, all right, no matter what happens, I'm done with this. I'm going to grow this business, and haven't looked back ever since.
Okay. So let's get granular on this. We talked about when you got the aha moment. Now we've grown to you folks are probably in the 60, 70, $80,000 a month recurring revenue, something
About
like that.
70, about 75 to 80 kind of
Right.
fluctuates.
So take us from, I mean, the nebulous. Now let's go from 0 to 10,000, right? So for anybody who's starting let's say an agency now, like that's really kind of like if they could get to 10,000, that's their, oh, if I could just get to 10,000. Tell me what you were thinking, who was involved, and how you got there.
Right. So early on, obviously, the main thing you're thinking about is how do we get enough revenue to cover salaries so that we can live a life, but still have a business that we can grow. And I do have a business partner, Dean IADC, and we kind of put our heads together and said, where are we going to get these first 10 customers? Because we were thinking we were going to charge in the $1,000 per month range. And we just got active. We got into BNI and we started going to Chamber of Commerce meetings.
Sure.
We were taking whatever we could get to get those first 10 customers to know we had enough revenue to come in to get the ball rolling.
Right, right. So now let's go to. We just passed the ramen noodle phase, right? Because that's right. So you've got a few things going. You're like, okay, it's happening. Now we're into let's just say the upward curve, which is the 10 to 25,000, which is really sort of where you start to you get a little run. You're getting your jog on. Tell me
Right.
about who's involved. How many people were you at that point from that 10 to 25? Where I think that's the kind of make it or break it. Where you're gonna like, okay, if we can get to, we got to 10. If we can get to 25, I think we're kind of like on our way, because once it gets beyond that, it's kind of exponential, because you're gonna have to have people in place, to
Right.
manage that.
Yeah, for us, it was at about, I think, $14,000 where we decided time to get out of the garage, time to get it in an office so we can be working together, not just on the business growth side, but on the execution side and making sure our clients are getting results, because that's the foundation. If your clients aren't getting results, you're not getting anywhere. So we got a little office, a little executive suite, and it was at about, I think, 17,000 where we said, it can't just be us anymore. We have to develop a team. We got to start to get some people in place, and that was when we hired our first operations manager, who was going to manage the build outs and the link building and the content creation, everything else that we do for our customers.
Right, right. So now let's take it from 25 to 50. Now this is sort of like what an entrepreneurial world is, the 500,000 mark, right? Because
Right.
if you can hit 50,000, you're at the 500,000 mark. That's a pretty substantial business. I mean, for anyone. So tell me about the people involved and and at that stage, when you're getting close to like a $50,000 mark, what do you have to have in place to manage that type of business? And how many customers does that represent?
Yeah, that range represents probably 40 to 55 clients, depending upon what you're charging. And I think as you start to have some case studies and some real good examples of what you've done, you can start to charge more. And so getting into the $1,500 to $2,000 per month range becomes a lot more feasible. I mean, you have to have the right people in place, because there's really two things that are happening in the business. Part of it is you're getting new clients, and you have to constantly be innovating and figuring out how you're going to get in front of that ideal customer so you continue to add people into the business. But then you have to have the client management and operations management piece of the equation as well. And so at this point now we have an operations manager. We've got 2 account managers who are responsible for the day-to-day communications with our customers and making sure they're being communicated with.
Right.
Because the number one reason somebody leaves is perceived indifference. And so if you can cover that and make sure that the customer feels well taken care of and has a really good customer experience, then it's just about getting the results.
Yeah,
And so
I totally hear you, and I wanted to parlay that into, now we go from 50,000 to 100,000. Now you're at 1 million. Right now you're actually, you're up there starting to compete with some of the agencies that have been legacy probably out there. You've done this in a very short period of time. I think, you're about 2 years, 2.5 years?
about 3 years now.
3
yeah.
years. Yeah. So now if you're going to get up to the $100,000 range, there's a whole nother criteria, because now you're kind of looking at a much larger landscape of customer, and of course you've got to do retention now. So it's almost like a farming component to all this. So
Yep.
talk about that, and then let's talk about after that, which is now where in, let's just say 3 years, where are we finding Click or some of the subsidiaries you've created to support the growth.
Yeah, I mean, as far as getting to that $1 million mark and beyond, you have to have the team. You got to have people that are accountable for very specific functions, and there's a lot of management work to be done because the main systems that are running are sales, getting new customers, marketing, getting those salespeople the leads, and then customer relations, maintaining the customers, and operations, getting the results, whatever program it is that they're on to get those results. Long-term potential, in the next 3 years, we'd like to see ourselves at probably the 1.5 to $2 million per year revenue mark. And that doesn't seem like it's exponential growth business, no matter how well we execute. So, we're going to have to add customers and expect to lose some customers in order to get to that level.
Speaking of customers, you picked HVAC. Those guys are a handful. I mean, honestly, we have like 6 or 7. They're on you like flies. And
Yeah.
so I always think about this. Of all the verticals, and you probably have dealt with some other ones as well, have you thought about other verticals as well to associate yourself with? Or is it just you're like, hey, listen, let's just do this one thing. We know it well. We know
Yep.
we're going to get beat on and how we're going to get beat on. Maybe that's the that's the way of looking at it. Like we know what our straps looking like coming at us once we do what we need to do to get them started.
Right. And for us, it's plumbing and HVAC,
Right.
probably more on the plumbing side even than the HVAC side. But you're right. I mean, they're proactive. They need a lot of attention.
Absolutely.
They're less than I've seen in others
Correct. They're not lawyers.
with that spectrum. I found that in plumbing and HVAC, as long as you're getting their phone to ring, which is the net result, and the revenue growth that goes along with that, they'll tend to be a little more hands off. We've toyed with the idea of really delving into a lot of different industries and being the experts in home services and doing roofing and doing all of these others. But we always come back to, is there a big enough market in plumbing and HVAC for us to hit our revenue goals? And is it really beneficial to start to go in different directions? And I feel like there's such a large market just within plumbing and HVAC and the various industries that we're in. And, there's over 80,000 plumbing companies throughout the United States. We're much better served to be really as good as possible in that space, continue to be, positioning ourselves as the experts, continue to be better at what we do for them, than to try and, diversify into 10 or 15 different directions.
That's interesting. You mentioned that you just niched yourself into one category and you can be the guy for that industry, where a lot of people like myself, we take on people who just find us because obviously we as a company you end up doing kind of work because people are asking you to do the work. And I found that what I've tried to do is niche geographically, and I think that maybe that's a little bit of a different strategy, but I understand but becoming a niche, and then maybe you even pick a further niche within HVAC where you could really, or plumbing, where you could really start to like go down this line where you are the guy in the guy's eyes that has to be in this space.
Right.
Take me in a typical day what you're doing. You get up. What happens then? What's the typical day look like?
Typical day at this point for me, the way we've got the operation set up is I'm focused most on the business marketing and sales aspect. And so a given day, I'm following up with our best leads, and we've got a lot of lead generation sources. Us at a presentation or came by our booth at one of our events or downloaded our guide online, and we use Infusionsoft to help market to those people and bring the cream to the front. And those are the people I spend my time talking with, setting up future initiatives. So creating videos, creating content, managing our direct mail initiatives, because we found that to be a great way to
Wow, that's great.
to get in front of our best customers. That's what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Probably 20% of that, though, then goes into helping the customer support team, helping the operations team, and making sure everything's progressing in a good direction.
That's good. I was thinking, obviously, because you guys are in the South, HVAC from air conditioning, and that is a much more intensive business, where we have kind of a split between heating and AC, and we just went through our heating season. Now,
Yep.
we're kind of in the mix right now, where the guys are coming at us going, we're going after the AC space right now. So it's interesting to hear somebody in a different regional area. You know what I wanted to ask you? We talk a lot about how we move up in our business growth. Were there any mentors or people that helped you take the next step from where you are now to moving yourself forward? Did you? And I don't mean like a Tony Robbins or a Gary Vaynerchuk or any of that. I mean a personal mentor like that had
Hmm.
worked with you.
Yeah, we have a number of mentors. Obviously the base foundation is the big gurus. The Chet Holmes and the T. Harv Eckers that help get your mindset and help you think at a wider level. The inbound marketing course, and uh, on a smaller level, Scott Gallagher has been very influential with us as far as following his program, checking in throughout the process. When we first hired that first operations guy, we checked in with him and got his feedback, and he was helpful all throughout that process. So he was definitely involved. From a local level, we have a business coach that we deal with on a weekly basis, just kind of hold us accountable and help make sure we're making wise decisions.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You bring up the before you brought up the Scott or your process of getting operational things set up seem to be continually seems to be a thing that gets pushed into the equation that we deal with. Let's talk real quickly about that. How critical is that operations environment for you, and how did you get a good operations person to start to engage with you? Was it a matter of just finding the right salary? Because I think that's some of the things that we challenge with a lot of the people that are, with what we deal with. It's especially if you're growing up the curve. How do you afford the right person? So
Right. Yeah, I mean it's there's no silver bullet. You kind of
right.
start with writing what the job description is and what you need someone to be able to do, and then we've put some really nice systems in place to help us find the right people that are going to be a good fit for for the way that we operate and can handle the type of job that we need. But I think we've been real fortunate in connecting with some really good people that give us 110% and really get the job done.
Right, and I think a lot of people will take on maybe part-time people to start with in this environment just because there's not enough capital to afford some of the really maybe higher-ended people, and then I think you probably would like anything else, you grow into the position or someone replaces. And that's what I was
Right.
going to say. When we talk about people, have you ever had? I mean, we talk about success, but let's talk about a little bit about failures. Have you had
Mhm.
people who have gotten into the position and then maybe not been able to handle the position work, or maybe haven't been committed? Because I think that's the biggest challenge is a commitment,
Mhm.
to making it happen. Because I think that's what we find in all these businesses. If you've got people who are committed, you can be patient to let them grow into the spots.
Right. I would say we have had failures with both people and attempted service offerings. So there were times where we thought we could hire people offshore. This the international space where we're going to be able to send the stuff and just expect things to be done. For us, anyways, that's turned out to be a dead end every time we've tried it. As far as internally, we've had failed people from a sales perspective because we had inside sales guys that are calling and setting up opportunities that just weren't a good fit. And operationally, people that we need to help manage directory optimization and the day-to-day stuff that needs to be done. And so we found that it's real important to make sure there's a clearly defined job description, that there's some type of personality profiling going on. We run a disc assessment for everybody before we hire them. So we can make sure if you're going to be doing directories and content development, you don't want to be a high I or a high D. You need to be an SC type
Right.
personality,
Yeah, the wonders of technology.
no doubt.
So I understand. I think we're kind of getting into the merits of trying to manage the people's expectations as we bring them through the process of saying, "Hey, I want to work for you, but how do I make sure that we have a good cohesiveness for each of the positions that you're installing someone in, so that they're the right long-term fit? Because I think that's the biggest challenge, is that people come in to an organization, their role sometimes is not yet even defined until you kind of get them into the process and you get what skill sets are probably going to fit them best. I know I've seen that happen within our organization as well.
Yeah.
Where I think that sometimes you have to wear a lot of hats in these agency businesses, that just is part of the drill. You have to know a little bit about everything, but specialize in one area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So, where do you see some of the big opportunities coming up now? That you're looking into, and maybe clients or client sizes. Are you moving up the chain? Are you moving, through the chain? Are you staying in certain size for a reason, or do you see like these larger opportunities of maybe more scale of growth as an opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, we actually have moved up the chain a little bit. So obviously, when we started, we were dealing with a lot of the one-man shows and helping to get them started and off the ground. We found that we have more long-term success and our best relationships with companies that are well established, companies that have been in business for 10 years, that have all of the right processes in place. So they answer the phones well, they dispatch their guys well, they run a good business. And so our target now is the $1 million plus plumbing or HVAC business with 5 to 10 guys plus out in the field. Those companies we can make the biggest impact in, and that's kind of our sweet spot now.
And that's one. So could you tell me what the split is of how your services are kind of split out? Is it?
Yeah. So we have 3 core packages.
Right.
We have an SEO package, which is basically doing the website and the search engine optimization.
Sure.
We have an SEO plus Google Maps package,
Yep.
which is the SEO plus Google Map optimization, citation development, review acquisition strategy. And then we have an SEO plus social media, where we'll manage all of that plus do the social media marketing, so posting to Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and LinkedIn
Sure.
with daily updates.
What's interesting is that I see that as kind of like where it's going, where I think everything needs to be into the social space at some point, where these guys, as in general, and your HVAC and plumbing guys, don't necessarily get their heads around it most of the time, but we see it coming very quickly, which is the connection to all this to SEO.
Right, absolutely.
All right, 2 technical questions, and then we'll call the interview a day.
Right.
What's the most critical element of local marketing to you? So maybe one of the best practices of local SEO that you found, and you mentioned maps several times. That's why I was curious.
Well, I think for plumbing and HVAC, the map is critical. And being ranked in your city plus plumber, your city plus AC repair, heating repair is kind of the sweet spot where you need to be. And getting ranked on the map, as you know, is all about authority. So having a properly claimed map listing, having consistency with the name, address, and phone number, so doing the citation development across the board with that, and then really having a strategy for getting reviews from your real customers in your true service area on those online directories. That's huge.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, and I think that's why I was saying taking that and pushing it into social is probably where all this ends up at the end of the day, because if you can connect real people with real reviews that they might know into the that process, then you've got a wheel that just spins for these guys. Transition of Google Plus to Google Plus Local, major differences in the map process. Do you see this coming?
Do I see it coming, or did I see it coming?
Well, I mean, there's obviously some changes in how things are now arranged because of Google Plus, and one of the big questions I'm going to have in my next interview, as I said, I'm going to be speaking to Gary Vaynerchuk, is how Google Plus is now kind of starting to get its tentacles around everything.
Yep.
And I think that they really want to monopolize this, and it starts also with the businesses with the maps, because Places is gone, Plus Local is there. What's the strategy now from that perspective? Because now we have to kind of integrate the social aspect of posting in Google Plus, and that review phase, which is kind of iffy at this junction because it's not so built out as it you'd like it to be?
Yeah, I would say the strategy is you have to merge your old Google Places listing with your Google Plus local listing, and the process that goes along with doing that. You have to be active on those social media, the Google Plus profile. So having daily or at least weekly posts, updates, things that are happening at your location, photos are critical. And then having a strategy where people can get to Google Plus Local and write reviews for you on Google Plus Local as well as the other online directory listings is really critical. But the foundation is pretty similar. You still have to have citation development, and you still have to have online reviews, and that's what's really going to drive positioning on the map.
Okay, good. One last question. What advice would you give to someone who is now, let's say, sitting in your shoes and they're just starting off and they've just said, you know what, I'm going to be an agency or I'm going to do this marketing stuff. I'm a good sales guy. I can hustle. What's the sage advice from someone who's now built, has employees, the whole process?
I would say pick a vertical, become an expert in some specific thing, whether it's pools or chiropractic or dentistry, and then become the expert in that space. Get 2 or 3 customers in that area, do a really good job for them, get them singing your praises, and then it's going to be a lot easier for you to scale your business because you can get others in that industry. And the best way to get your first couple clients is to start local, so you don't have to go national right off the bat. If you're going to be the expert in dentistry, for instance, or whatever the vertical is, start with a small list of dentists in your area. Find the local dental chamber or the dental association. Sit in their meetings. Try and find an opportunity to speak at their meetings, and you'll find that getting those first 3 to 5 customers in that space isn't that hard, and you can get to the place where you're paying yourself something, you're covering your expenses, and developing something that's going to have momentum for you going forward.
Great. Any things you want to promote or anything that you want to talk about that you want to tell the audience that we have that
Not particularly. I mean, at this point, I like to share. I love to do these interviews. I do these types of interviews with successful plumbing businesses, and so when I get the opportunity to be interviewed, I'm welcome the opportunity to share the knowledge.
Josh, that's awesome, and thank you very much for spending the time. I think we really, came through some of the better questions that I've had on, in my mind for people like you who are, kind of advanced compared to, you've moved very quickly in this space, and I think that you and I both agree that there's just so much to go. We're at the very, very beginnings of this, and I'm sure you run into this all the time where everyone you speak with, there's always a new opportunity to even add on other services that can help enhance and add value to their business.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Great talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you.